Welcome back to the deep dive. You guys sent in a pretty wild pairing this time. Got me looking at Isaac Asimov's Nightfall and some excerpts from The Law of One.
Ooh, interesting combo.
Yeah, right. And at first glance, I was like, how are we going to connect the sci-fi classic and, well, a spiritual text like that?
Right.
But the more I dug in, the more I thought, okay, there's something here. There are some threads we can definitely untangle.
Absolutely, yeah. Nightfall, it just drops us right onto this planet. 6 suns, can you imagine? And darkness is literally a myth until it's not, right? Yeah. Every 2,000 years, the suns align and boom, total darkness. And for this civilization, it always means total societal collapse.
Oh, wow.
In the Law of One, it goes deep into this whole cosmic structure, densities, vibrations, how consciousness itself evolves. And I think what's really cool is both of these, Nightfall and the Law of One, they're both wrestling with these huge questions. Like, what do we actually know? How much do our beliefs shape our reality? And then how do we react when we're confronted with something totally unknown?
Okay, so let's start with Nightfall. 6 suns. I mean, could you imagine? You'd be slathering on SPF like it was going out of style. But seriously, to live your whole life bathed in constant sunlight and then suddenly darkness.
Yeah.
And not just any darkness, right?
Yeah.
It's this darkness filled with stars they've never even conceived of. It's
Yeah.
like their entire understanding of the universe just implodes.
It's exactly that. Asimov, I think he's really tapping into this very human tendency that we have to be scared of what we don't get.
Yeah.
The people in Nightfall, they build their entire world around this idea of perpetual light. And then when that's ripped away, they go mad, literally.
I mean, I can see that happening.
Think about it, though. Think about a time when you had some belief, some idea about the world, and then something happened, something that just shook that belief to its core.
Oh, yeah.
And you get that feeling of uncertainty, right? Like your world is shifting. Well, multiply that by, I don't know, 1,000, and you might get close to what those Nightfall characters are going through.
Okay, yeah, wow. Fear of the unknown, big time. Which actually is a great segue to the Law of One, because it talks about this veil of forgetting, this idea that we're all living under this veil, that it's blocking us from seeing our true nature, our past lives, all of that.
Right.
It's kind of like those people on Lagash, blind to the reality of the stars until that eclipse happens.
I love that parallel. It's spot on. And the Law of One folks, they suggest this veil, it's not just some random cosmic prank. It actually has a purpose.
Okay.
It allows us to really experience free will.
Yeah.
Without the baggage of knowing absolutely everything about ourselves and the universe. So we start each life with a clean slate.
I guess that makes sense.
Which is great for genuine learning and growth, but it also means, well, we're going to be more prone to fear and confusion when things just don't fit into our limited understanding.
So in Nightfall, they're freaking out about the darkness and the stars, and according to the Law of One, we're all kind of wandering around with these blinders on, missing the bigger picture. But there's this thing. The Law of One says that before this veil existed, before we put it on, entities in third density, which is where we are now, they had these crazy long lifespans.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that.
And they had control over their bodies, like almost superhero level stuff.
Exactly. Telekinesis, healing, you name it, they could do it. But here's the thing. What if all those abilities came at a cost?
Okay, what do you mean?
What if they lacked something we have, something crucial?
Which is?
True depth of experience. See, the pre-veil entities, they might have had all the cool powers, but they didn't have to grapple with choices like we do. They didn't have to learn and grow through challenges because they basically knew everything up front. So maybe the veil, it's like it takes away those easy mode powers, but it gives us something way more valuable, the ability to truly experience life with all its messiness and uncertainty.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So Nightfall shows us this society built on this limited knowledge. Then bam, they get hit with the reality of the universe. And the Law of One is saying, hey, we're all kind of living in our own Nightfall situation, right?
Agree.
Veiled, navigating a reality that we only understand in bits and pieces.
Right. And both Nightfall and the Law of One, they offer us a glimpse into what happens when those limitations, those blinders, are challenged. Yeah, it can be scary, chaotic, like we see in Nightfall, but it can also be this huge push for growth, for transformation. And that's what the Law of One is really getting at, this incredible potential for us to evolve.
Okay, so there's hope for us veiled beings, after all. We might not be shooting lasers out of our eyes, but we have this potential to learn and grow in a way those pre-veil folks didn't.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty cool thought.
It is, and it actually ties into another big idea that runs through both of these works' belief systems, and how much power they really have.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Think about the Lagash people in Nightfall. They built their entire society, their entire understanding of the universe around this belief that darkness was just a myth, a scary story for
Right.
kids,
Right.
and that belief, it blinded them. When the reality of darkness, the reality of the stars showed up, their world fell apart.
So they basically believe themselves into oblivion.
Pretty much, yeah. So then you look at the Law of One, and it introduces this really wild concept called thought forms. It says our thoughts aren't just these fleeting things in our heads. They actually have power. They can shape the reality that we experience. Imagine the planet, our planet, as a giant tuning fork.
Okay, with you.
As we evolve spiritually, the fork vibrates at a higher frequency. But right now, our thoughts, all the things we do, they're creating this static, this noise that makes it harder to hit that pure high note.
Hold on. Are you saying our thoughts are literally shaping the world around us? Like, for real?
That's exactly what the Law of One suggests. It's a lot to wrap your head around, and it makes you think, what kind of reality are we creating, all of us together, with our thoughts and our beliefs? If Nightfall is like a warning, showing us what happens when we cling to those limited beliefs,
Yeah.
well, the Law of One is almost like this optimistic flip side.
Okay, how so?
It's saying, hey, we have this incredible potential to create something so much bigger, so much more harmonious,
Right.
just by shifting our mindset.
Okay, I think I'm going to need to upgrade my thoughts after that one.
Yeah.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I want to circle back to Nightfall for a sec. We talked about the fear, the chaos,
Hmm?
but there's this group of scientists in this story, all right? They're desperately trying to understand what's happening with the eclipse, to warn people. Are they just there to move the plot along, or is there something more to them?
What's really interesting about those scientists is that they represent this challenge to the status quo.
Yeah.
They're the ones willing to question what everyone else accepts as truth. They're digging deeper, facing the unknown, even when it's terrifying.
Right.
They're like this tiny little microcosm of that potential for growth and evolution that the Law of One keeps talking about.
But they're ignored,
Hmm.
right, by pretty much everyone else.
Yeah, it's tragic. Everyone else is so caught up in their fear and their rigid beliefs that they can't even entertain the possibility of another truth. It makes you wonder, how often do we do that in our own lives? How often do we shut out information that makes us uncomfortable, information that challenges our worldview? It's a question worth thinking about because it gets to the core of what both Nightfall and the Law of One are telling us. The universe is full of mysteries, things that are way beyond what we can currently grasp. And when we run into those mysteries, yeah, it can be terrifying, but it can also be transformative. And it's up to each of us to decide. Do we respond with fear, with denial, or do we choose curiosity? Do we choose to evolve?
Okay, so we've got a planet with 6 suns, a veil hiding our true selves, thought forms shaping reality, and this crazy potential for both total chaos and incredible evolution. I think we've officially gone way past SPF 1000 and entered a whole new dimension of mind-blowing.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even touched on densities and harvests and all the good stuff that the Law of One gets into. Imagine a video game, right, with different levels. As you master one, you harvest the experience and you move on to a more challenging one.
Okay, I like where this is going.
That's kind of like the densities in the Law of One. But before we get too deep into that, I think it's time to pause and give you, dear listener, a chance to, well, to digest all this.
Yeah, take a breather.
What's resonating with you so far? What stands out? What do you make of Nightfall and this whole concept of the veil? We'll be back in a flash to dive into more of these cosmic mysteries after a quick break.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about what stands out to you about Nightfall and this idea of the veil. Yeah, it's a question I'm still kind of chewing on, to be honest. That whole idea of a veil hiding our true nature from us,
Yeah.
and then the chaos that can erupt when those limitations are challenged. I don't know, it's the kind of unsettling, but also really, really fascinating. Makes you wonder what we might be totally blind to in our own lives, you know?
Absolutely. It does. And it brings us right back to those densities and harvests that we were starting to talk about. Remember the Law of One and that video game analogy?
Yeah, different levels of consciousness, right?
Exactly. So picture this. Each level of the game is a different density of consciousness. Right now, we're hanging out in third density.
Yes.
It's like the training level of the cosmos. We're here to figure out this whole free will thing, to make choices, but with, a pretty limited understanding of how everything really works.
So what happens when we level up? What are these higher densities like? And what about this harvest thing? Is someone coming to collect our cosmic crops or something?
That's where things get even more interesting. According to the Law of One, These higher densities are like states of being. Greater awareness, more unity, more compassion. As we evolve, we basically graduate to the next level.
Okay.
And the harvest is kind of like the final exam. But it's not about some outside force judging us. It's more like our own internal vibes determine where we go next.
Okay, so it's like a cosmic sorting hat. You get placed in the density that matches your level of evolution. But what if you fail the test? Do you have to repeat third density?
The law of one is pretty clear on this. There's no such thing as failing. Not really. It's all about cycles of learning and growth. If we haven't quite gotten the hang of a particular density, we might choose to come back, reincarnate within that density until we're ready to move on. It's like choosing to replay a level of that video game so you can master the skills you need to progress.
So no cosmic detention, but maybe a cosmic summer school. I like it. But here's where I'm getting a little tripped up. If it's all about free will, how does this harvest thing even work? Is it predetermined? Or do we actually have a say in where we end up?
It's a really good question. It's this paradox, right? Free will versus this structured system of densities and harvests. But the law of one suggests it's actually both. We have the freedom to choose our actions, our beliefs. But those choices, well, they have consequences. They create a certain vibrational pattern within us. And that pattern is what determines which density we're going to resonate with.
So I'm driving the car, but I can't just go off-roading into any dimension I want. There are still rules of the road I got to follow. But wait, if we're making choices all the time that affect our vibration,
Yeah.
doesn't that mean we're constantly shifting densities?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem very stable.
That's where the idea of a dominant vibration comes in. It's like our soul has a kind of energy signature, and that signature reflects the overall direction of our choices. So yeah, we might have moments where our vibration is higher or lower, but it's that dominant vibration, the overall average, so to speak, that determines our, well, our home density.
So it's like a cosmic average. All the little choices we make, they add up over time to create our overall vibe.
But here's another thing I'm wondering about. We're all connected, right? Like the law of one talks about this interconnected web of everything.
Right.
So doesn't that mean our individual vibrations are kind of like influencing each other?
It's a really interesting thought. And the law of one does say our thoughts and emotions, they have a ripple effect.
Okay.
We're all contributing to this big collective energy field, and our individual vibes can definitely influence that field. But remember, we're also talking about densities here.
Right.
So it's not like having a bad day is suddenly going to drag everyone down into a lower density. There's some stability within each density.
Got it.
It would take a pretty massive shift in collective consciousness to actually trigger a bigger transition. Okay, so it's like a cosmic ocean. A few raindrops might make some ripples, but it takes a whole lot of them to create a tsunami. But hold on, if we're all interconnected, does that mean we're also influencing each other's harvests? Like, if I'm a super positive person, can I help someone else level up?
I love that idea. And the law of one definitely hints at this possibility that we can help each other evolve.
Yeah.
But remember, it always comes back to free will.
Right.
We can offer support, guidance, positive energy. But at the end of the day, each soul has to choose its own path.
So we could be cosmic cheerleaders, but we can't force anyone across the finish line. Makes sense. But there's this other thing in the law of one, these investment opportunities, where higher density beings can assist lower density ones.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of contradict the whole free will thing? How can they help us if we're supposed to do the work ourselves?
Think of it less like intervention and more like cosmic mentorship. These higher density beings, they can offer wisdom, guidance, support, but they always, always respect our free will. It's like they're giving us a map and a compass, but we still have to choose which direction we actually want to go in.
Okay, so it's like having a cosmic GPS, but instead of telling me exactly where to turn, it's helping me develop my own internal navigation system.
But how does that even work? Are they whispering in our ears, sending us telepathic messages?
That's a good question. What the law of one suggests is that these higher density beings can communicate with us in subtler ways.
Like what?
Intuition, dreams, even through those weird coincidences, those synchronicities that seem to, guide us in the right direction. But it's often very subtle. And it's up to us to be open to it, to listen.
So it's like a cosmic game of hide and seek. They're leaving clues, but we have to find them. But this is what I don't get. If these higher density beings are so advanced, so compassionate, why haven't they just fixed all the problems in our world? Why are we still dealing with war, poverty, all that? That is the million-dollar question, right? And the law of one, it gives a pretty thought-provoking answer. It suggests that these challenges, these really tough things that we're facing, they're actually part of the whole point of third density.
Okay.
They're the obstacles that force us to confront our shadows, to make those hard choices, and ultimately to decide which direction we want to evolve in.
So it's like a cosmic obstacle course. We got to jump over all these hurdles of suffering and conflict to reach the finish line of,
Hmm.
like, higher consciousness. But that doesn't seem very fair. Why do we have to go through all this pain and struggle?
It's not about fairness or punishment, it's about growth. Think of it like a muscle.
Yeah.
It only gets stronger when it's challenged, pushed to its limits. And it's the same with our consciousness. It's through facing those tough things that we develop empathy, compassion, and the wisdom to actually create a better world.
So it's not about avoiding challenges or pretending they don't exist.
Hmm.
It's about using them as fuel for our evolution. But Nightfall shows us what can happen when a whole society chooses fear and denial over growth and understanding. They literally destroy themselves because they can't handle the truth. Is that a possibility for us too? Could we, like, collectively Nightfall ourselves?
That's a sobering question. And it's one that the Law of One doesn't shy away from. It acknowledges that there's potential for both positive and negative harvests. It's like a fork in the road, and we, all of us together, we're choosing which path to take.
So you're saying we have a choice to embrace growth and evolution or to succumb to fear and division. But how do we make the right choice? How do we make sure we don't end up like those people in Nightfall?
The Law of One offers a really simple but really profound guideline. Seek always the heart of love.
Seek always the heart of love. Okay.
It's about aligning our actions with compassion, with understanding, with a genuine desire to contribute to the well-being of everyone.
Okay, so it's not about following a bunch of rules or some specific ideology. It's about cultivating a heart-centered approach to life. But how do we know if we're on the right track? Are there any signs?
According to the Law of One, our experiences, they're like feedback. It's like we're constantly getting these little cues, these nudges, sometimes even these big cosmic wake-up calls, and they're all guiding us toward greater alignment with our true selves.
So it's like a cosmic GPS, but instead of turn-by-turn directions, it's about tuning into our inner compass, our intuition, and paying attention to the feedback we're getting. But what about all the external stuff? Wars, environmental crises, social injustices.
Hmm?
Can our individual choices really make a difference in the face of all that?
The Law of One says our thoughts and actions, they create ripple effects. It's like we're each emitting this vibrational frequency, and it's contributing to the overall energy field of the planet, and even beyond.
So it's like a cosmic symphony, and we're each playing an instrument. But what if some people are playing instruments that are, out of tune, creating dissonance? Can we still create harmony with all that going on?
That's the challenge, and also the beauty of free will. The Law of One doesn't offer a quick fix or a guaranteed utopia. It's about recognizing that we're all part of this big experiment, this grand evolution of consciousness.
So we're back to the choose your own adventure thing. But it's not just our own adventure, it's a collective one. And our choices, our actions, even our thoughts are shaping the story.
Exactly. And it brings us back to Nightfall and the Law of One. They both explore this idea of hidden knowledge
Okay.
and how encountering that hidden knowledge can be both scary and awe-inspiring.
In Nightfall, it's the stars. They're always there, but hidden until that eclipse.
Yeah.
And in the Law of One, it's the veil, blocking us from seeing our true nature and the vastness of reality.
And in both cases, finding that hidden knowledge, it triggers a transformation. In Nightfall, it leads to chaos and destruction, but the Law of One suggests that we have the potential to use that knowledge to evolve, to awaken to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe.
So it's not the knowledge itself that's dangerous, it's how we choose to use it.
Right. Like fire, it can destroy, but it can also bring warmth, light, transformation.
I like that.
And that's where the Law of One's focus on love, compassion, service to others, it becomes so important. It's like a guiding principle, helping us navigate all its complexity, to choose actions that lead to harmony and evolution, not chaos and destruction.
Okay, so we've got choices, consequences, cosmic mentors, the power of belief, hidden knowledge, transformation. Phew. But all this talk about densities, harvests, cosmic symphonies, it can feel kind of overwhelming. Where do we even start to apply these concepts to our everyday lives?
Maybe with a simple question. What brings you joy? What makes you feel most alive, most connected to something bigger than yourself?
That's a good one. I love spending time in nature, listening to music, having those deep conversations with friends, creating things, writing, drawing, building stuff. What about you?
All wonderful examples. Those are things that align with the Law of One. Creativity, connection, a sense of transcendence.
Right.
Those things nourish your soul, and they contribute to the positive energy of the planet.
So it's not about becoming a monk and giving up all earthly pleasures.
Right.
It's about finding those things that make us feel most aligned with who we really are, and then going for it with passion and purpose.
Exactly. And as you do those things, pay attention to the ripple effects. How does your energy shift? How do your interactions with others change? Even small actions can contribute to a more harmonious and joyful reality.
So it's like this feedback loop. We make choices, we see what happens, we course correct, and little by little we become more in tune with this whole cosmic dance of evolution.
You got it. But what about the tough parts, the challenges, the setbacks? What about those moments when it feels like everything's falling apart?
Yeah, those are rough.
The Law of One reminds us that challenges, they're just part of the learning process. It's like we signed up for this boot camp called Third Density to face our shadows, to learn from our mistakes, and to come out stronger and wiser.
So it's not about avoiding the tough stuff or pretending it doesn't exist.
Mm.
It's about facing it head on, knowing that it's an opportunity for us to grow.
Exactly. And when we approach challenges with that mindset, with courage and compassion, understanding that there are opportunities, it opens us up to a deeper level of understanding. We become more resilient. We learn to turn adversity into wisdom.
So we're all alchemists, turning the lead of our challenges into the gold of wisdom and compassion. I like that. But what about the people who seem to, I don't know, thrive on negativity, who deliberately choose to do things that hurt others? Does the law of one address that?
It does. It acknowledges that there's both positive and negative polarity. It suggests that even those who choose the path of, serving themselves, they're ultimately seeking the same thing as those who choose service to others. A connection with the creator, but they're going about it in a different way.
But wouldn't that make the universe a pretty messy place if everyone's just pursuing their own thing, regardless of how it affects other people?
And that's where the concept of harvest comes in. The Law of One suggests that at certain points in this whole evolutionary cycle, there's this kind of sorting process that happens.
Okay.
Those who have aligned themselves with love, with service to others, they move on to a higher density, while those who are clinging to separation, to self-service, well, they remain in a lower density.
So it's like a cosmic graduation ceremony. But wait, what about free will? Isn't that a bit, I don't know, predetermined?
The Law of One is very clear that the choice is always ours. It's like we're making these tiny little choices all the time, and those choices are shaping the direction of our evolution.
So it's not some outside force deciding our fate. It's the cumulative effect of all our choices, our intentions, are the vibration.
Exactly. But what about karma?
Ooh, yeah, good one.
The Law of One actually uses the term balancing to describe that process of learning from our actions. It says that when we make choices that are out of alignment with love, with harmony, we create this kind of energetic imbalance. And that imbalance, well, it manifests as experiences that give us opportunities to learn and course correct.
So it's not about punishment. It's about restoring balance, learning from our mistakes and moving towards greater harmony.
Exactly. And the Law of One says this balancing can happen within a single lifetime or even across multiple lifetimes.
So we get multiple chances to, I don't know, get it right, to learn those lessons we've chosen to explore, and ultimately to evolve towards greater love, wisdom, and unity.
That's the idea. And it's a pretty hopeful one, don't you think? Especially when you look at all the challenges we face both individually and collectively.
Yeah, it is. So even though Nightfall paints a pretty bleak picture, this society collapsing into chaos, the law of one is offering us this, like, glimmer of light, a possibility for a different outcome.
Definitely. The Law of One suggests we have the power to choose a different path, to co-create a reality based on love, compassion, and this understanding that we're all connected, part of this incredible cosmic tapestry.
So it's not about waiting for a savior or some miracle. It's about recognizing the power we have within ourselves to shape our own destiny, both individually and collectively.
You got it. And that's the beauty of this whole exploration. It empowers us to become conscious co-creators of our reality.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Cycles, choices, cosmic mentors, the power of belief, hidden knowledge, transformation, service to others, balancing, and the goal of unity. But there's one more thing I'm super curious about. The Law of One mentions these wanderer souls from higher densities who choose to incarnate on Earth to help with the harvest. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. The Law of One describes wanderers as beings who have already gone through the whole third density experience.
Right.
They've graduated to a higher level of awareness, but they choose to come back here, often with a veil of forgetting, to help with the evolutionary process.
So they're like volunteering for a cosmic mission. But why would they do that? Why leave a higher density to come back to this place with all its challenges?
The law of one suggests it's all about love and compassion. They feel a deep empathy for those of us still working through the lessons of third density. They want to help us wake up.
So like a cosmic Peace Corps. But how do we even know if we're interacting with a wanderer? Are there any signs?
The law of one cautions against trying to label people or put them in boxes.
Right.
It emphasizes that each soul is unique on its own journey, and ultimately, we're all part of the same creator.
Okay, so it's not about trying to figure out who's a wanderer and who's not.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the inherent, divinity in everyone we meet.
Exactly, and that's a powerful practice in itself, to approach every interaction with an open heart, to see beyond the surface differences and recognize the unity that connects us all.
So it's not about identifying wanderers or categorizing ourselves. It's about living in a way that embodies love, compassion, service to others, no matter where we came from or what level of awareness we're at right now.
Exactly. And when we do that, we become part of the solution. We contribute to the positive momentum of evolution. We create a reality that reflects those values.
It's not about identifying wanderers or categorizing ourselves. It's about living in a way that embodies love, compassion, service to others,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where we came from or what level of awareness we're at right now. But, speaking of origins and stuff, I keep thinking about Nightfall. Those scientists, they were really trying to do something, right? To preserve knowledge, to warn people about the darkness that was coming.
Yeah, it's a powerful image. They were facing so much resistance, ridicule even, but they kept pushing, trying to shed light on a truth that most people just didn't want to see.
And their efforts, they were all about helping people, right?
Well,
Even if it meant challenging those deep-seated beliefs that everyone held.
absolutely. And it makes me think about the challenges we're facing today. I mean, in Nightfall, they were dealing with this literal darkness, this event that was going to shatter their whole reality. But we're dealing with a different kind of darkness, aren't we?
What do you mean?
A darkness of ignorance, fear, disconnection. And I think just like those scientists, we have a responsibility to, shine a light, to offer knowledge, understanding, to help people navigate these really tough times.
So it's not about building bunkers or just like hoarding information. It's about cultivating those qualities, those things that can light up even the darkest corners of ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. Love, compassion, unity. Those are the things that can really make a difference. And it all comes back to what the law of one keeps emphasizing, aligning our thoughts, our emotions, our actions with service to others. Remembering that we're not just isolated individuals, we're all connected, threads in this huge cosmic tapestry.
And knowing that, feeling that interconnectedness, it's humbling, but it's also really empowering, isn't it? It reminds us that we're not alone, that the universe has our back. And even those little acts of kindness, they can ripple outwards and create something so much bigger, so much more beautiful.
I totally agree. It's a powerful message to hold on to, especially now. The law of one doesn't give us all the answers or promise us some perfect utopia, but it does offer us a roadmap, a set of principles that can help us move towards greater understanding, compassion, and ultimately, unity.
It's like we've been given this amazing toolbox: meditation, contemplation, service to others, seeking knowledge. And now it's up to you, dear listener, to put those tools to work, to create a reality that reflects what matters most to you. What are you going to build?
That's the beauty of a deep dive, right? To inspire, to empower, and maybe to leave you with even more questions than answers.
It's all about the journey. So keep diving, keep questioning, keep choosing love, because the adventure is just beginning.